The beauty and the magic of this show is there's no good guy and there's no bad guy. And so it was very interesting to see who people latched onto based off their own lived experience, who they felt was in the wrong, who they felt was in the right, what that gray area is, you know, like much like the issue of mental health, which is what our show is all about. There's so much gray area and there isn't a clear-cut answer, and the show doesn't try to do that. It doesn't try to present anything in this very concrete way. It's just, here are these people, here are their struggles, and let that wash over you and take away what you will. And that's part of the magic. You know, we often go to see a musical to escape, and I think this musical you go to delve in even further.
The Donmar Warehouse has an incredible tradition of staging musicals, and because of that, I was really keen to try and program a musical each season when I was there. I never saw the original production of Next Door. I knew of it. It's the show that I was most asked to program at the Donmar Warehouse because it hadn't been to the UK, and the superfans were clamoring for it.
What the heck?
One of the producers in my team told me to listen to it, and I put it on my earphones when I went running, and it just instantly sunk in. I think the pandemic shifted British consciousness and the conversation around mental health and mental illness significantly. When we returned, I found that with colleagues, with friends, it had become much more commonplace to talk about being in therapy or being on medication. And I have done plays about mental illness, and I've sort of experienced the extreme outpouring that a play can have on its audience. The reaction from the audience is huge, and I think it really demonstrates something in the British psyche about the taboo of not talking about mental illness. I think it's still really strong, the shame attached to it, about how we hide those things and the struggles. And so I felt it was a story that really would resonate.
It's been 4 weeks, and I'd like to try something new today. Sometimes, when these stories are hard to tell, hypnosis can be helpful.
I had just got back to the UK after recording the cast album for my Broadway revival of Caroline on Change. And it had just been Grammy nominated, we were all very excited, and I was sitting, listening to it in repeat on my kitchen, and I could just hear Casey Levy's perfect vocal delivering Rose, not the tiniest catch of emotion in her voice, like suggesting fathoms of feeling that she'd instantly like deflect away with some comedy. And I just thought, I think she's Diana.
Sitting right next to me here is Casey Levy, who, I mean, where do you even start with Casey?
Truly.
Casey's work, it really speaks for itself. Casey has originated a bunch of amazing roles. She was the original Elsa in the Frozen musical on Broadway. Incredible in the Hair revival, 2009.
Thanks, sweetie.
I mean, amongst so many other things, Caroline O'Change and Leopoldstadt, and this is incredible. But I think more so than this work is like the most human, the most kind, the most like ready, present actor to work with. Needless to say as well, incredibly intimidating to turn up to rehearsals and know that Casey Levy was going to be there. So then to find out that, you know, she becomes such a quick best pal is a huge joy. So we're very lucky to have you. Like, thank you.
You know, for her to join Trevor Dion-Nicholas.
We have a veteran of huge-scale theatre who can hold his own in some of the biggest houses and concert halls that are available to it. And we know that with your personality and your talent and your voice, you can fill it. But we also now know that we can play in a small, intimate space and keep things just on a completely naturalistic level. And that,
amazing.
Combined with the generosity that we found in the company, is a real treat and kind of the best you could hope for as someone to work with. So,
for Gabe, I wanted to think about who Gabe would be in this production. I think the idea of the American jock is not a trope or a type we have as much of in the UK. And I was thinking about perhaps now, 15 years later, who would be the son that Diana might be imagining she had, that her son would grow up to be. And Jack delivered something. He just played the truth of it. But his presence is extraordinary. And I was so excited to have him take the role.
This man needs no introduction, but for those that know Jack, who I think everyone knows kind of who you are, if not like what you represent. I think you are so warm and so lovely. and I love you and admire you, and to take such an iconic role and to completely reshape it, not only takes such braveness, but also to be able to do it so impeccably that you would never know that there was a completely different persona to Gabe.
You redefined it.
Absolutely redefined it, and that is beautiful to watch, and was beautiful to witness in the room as well.
Yeah.
Jamie Parker I know as an amazing Shakespearean actor, as Harry Potter in the original Cursed Child, but I did know him as a musical theatre singer, crooner perhaps originally then.
Live their whole life.
I have to take my dad bro, Jamie Parker, as well. Like, I love you. This man, okay, so if you have seen, of course, The History Boys and like the legend of that, but also this is Harry Potter. Like opening it here on the West End, going to Broadway and playing one of the most iconic characters in literature and bringing it to life. To take a role that has so much expectation and to subvert all that expectation by just playing it honestly and playing it beautifully. And I've been a fan of your work on multiple levels. Your work is impeccable, and you go with your details down to the fingernails, and I will always appreciate the depth of nuance that you put in there.
And the chance to meet the younger actors through a really thorough audition process. I mean, Eleanor Wellington Cox won the Olivier age 12 as Matilda, so, you know, she's no stranger to musicals, but it was when she walked in the door and showed herself to be so clearly her mother's daughter in Casey Levy, we knew we were onto something.
This is Eleanor Worthington Cox. She is an incredibly accomplished woman. She won an Olivier for being the original Matilda, went on to many, many television roles, many theater roles. She's nominated for her performance in this.
Yes.
She's brilliant, she's kind, she's all heart.
I'm gonna cry.
I love our scenes together.
I love ours. This is Jack, who is starting in From Here to Eternity and then has now had his Palladium debut. I remember these things. And is now our wonderful Henry, and couldn't be more magical as a person and a partner on stage. I felt held every single night. It's not easy.
Literally as well.
Yeah, literally, just while I sob onto your shoulder and literally snot and cry onto you every day. And that's so special that we were able to hold that every single night and look after each other while also abusing each other and calling each other silly names. So, love you.
The rehearsal process began with the company familiarising themselves with Tom's amazing music. I think his score is rocket fuel to an incredible story, to some really punchy themes. But it's complicated, it's hard. You need to be powerhouse singers. So we start the process when I direct a musical with that, a week of learning the music with the musical director and musical supervisor.
When anybody's asked me, like, in these months what the experience was like, I've been like, I've never felt so safely supported by a creative team, but also by like the full company. There's this beauty in what we were able to trust and explore and play with each other in the room. And I think the whole way we approach the process, we spent that first week just making sure we're all on the same page.
I am really grateful to a company called Applause for Thought that we worked with at the Donmar Warehouse to support the acting company and the company more widely when we're taking on a play with issues of this seriousness. I was really struck by how once we started working on the piece, day after day, people would share stories in the company, in the wider company, in the creative team, in the production staff. People would just start sharing, oh, I've experienced that. I had a period of my life when my depression was bad. I was on medication for this. I have bipolar. Things that people don't share, people were sharing, and the work was, something was being channeled, and I think we felt that in the room, but the company Applause for Thought gave us a really supportive process. We both sort of looked at bipolar from a clinical perspective and looked at the kind of diagnosis of the character and understood it from that, but also they did sessions with the cast to support them in the playing of it, and I have never felt cast feels so safe and strong in what they were doing, which I think is essential.
In the last rehearsal process with Mike and Anne and Nigel, they created this space, and we hear a lot these days about like a safe space, but truly, I feel like that rehearsal room had some magic to it because we had the luxury of time to really get to know each other and like make this piece what it should be now, which is very different than when it debuted in 2010, you know, so, or 2009.
And then I brought rehearsal room experts to the room. So we brought professionals from the healthcare industry, psychiatrists, people who specialize in bipolar, who in delivering ECT, to help us really try and get into the characters' mindsets and to empathize with what they were experiencing.
For me, a lot of the challenge was the authenticity of these healthcare professionals in different ways.
Yeah.
And like there was a fun challenge in that. There was like, we know the pills. That was its own thing.
Yeah.
But then there's the feeling of triumph in it when you nail it. And like that was exciting to me.
Then I tried to get on our feet and play with my movement director, Annie, and let the characters live in space.
Once all the parts were together, we had all of our team together, the family and the cast, and it was exciting.
I didn't have concerns about the gravity of the subject matter. I had concerns about representing it authentically. As a director, you're always trying to honor the author's intentions and to represent the themes, the subject, the people authentically. You know, millions of people live with bipolar, and their story is important, and there is such stigma often attached to how bipolar is represented famously on screen in stories. So getting that right was really important to me.
I'm up for doing one more yeah.
I loved filming this show. I've had the opportunity to capture digitally several of my theatre productions, and each time I do it, I really enjoy the process of watching actors adapt their performance for the camera and thinking about where the camera needs to be placed and the rhythm of the edit and all those amazing things. We've shot it over 3 evenings, and then 2 afternoons we built out over the stalls so we could have all the moving camera shots that we wanted, and did a 7-camera setup. And it was really amazing to have that amount of material and that number of options in the edit. Because I think so often in capturing stage productions, the shot choices just can't be interesting enough to do the work justice. But we were really able, I think, to get the shots we needed to do justice to the production and to the performers, and that their performances stand up so beautifully in extreme close-up, I think is a testament to those actors. I think it is incredible what they do. So the chance to capture that in a new medium that has new rules, the chance to grow as an artist is a gift, and I haven't spent as long in an edit on anything else, and it was a joy to keep staying close to this material. Tom Kitt was able to join us in London when we were creating this live capture, to spend time in Pinewood Studios with him as we mastered the audio. It was a thrill watching him dig into his own arrangements and orchestrations and pull out tiny bits of different instrumentation. Was just incredible. It's a real gift when you get to work with authors who are excited to see how their story can be reinterpreted 15 years later in a new production, especially after the phenomenal success of the original production. I'm forever grateful for his and Brian's openness to letting me approach the material from my lens, from my perspective, in my time, from my country. And I hope the sort of thing we found, the specificity of that, its time and its place, will allow it to travel and reach American audiences successfully. I'm so excited that this production is included in PBS's Great Performances Broadway's Best initiative. I think the capturing of live work on screen is essential in terms of sharing it and giving access to wider audiences who couldn't get to the original production, whether that's because it was in a different country, but those access needs, those cost barriers that theatre can bring, I think it is essential that we share this work as widely as possible, and I'm so grateful for PBS for doing that and for deeming us worthy to be part of this series of works.